In the vast, unforgiving expanse of the galaxy, where stars burned like distant promises and nebulae swirled in colors no human eye had evolved to fully appreciate, Captain Jax Harlan piloted his sleek starfighter through the chaos of battle. The Intergalactic Federation had been at war for months now, a brutal conflict against the invading hordes of the Vexar Empire, whose massive dreadnoughts blotted out entire constellations. Jax, a rugged Earth-born pilot with a reputation for defying death, had earned his stripes in the cockpit, weaving through laser fire and debris fields like a ghost in the machine. His ship, the Eclipse, was an extension of his will, fast, lethal, and unforgiving. But today, everything changed. Jax's comms crackled to life mid-dogfight, pulling him from the adrenaline-fueled trance of combat. "Captain Harlan, this is High Command. Stand down immediately. You're being rerouted to the neutral zone for a diplomatic extraction." "Extraction? In the middle of this mess?" Jax barked back, dodging a barrage of plasma bolts that scorched his shields. His voice was gravelly, laced with the frustration of a man who lived for the fight. Sweat beaded on his forehead under the helmet, his dark hair matted against his skin. He was in his prime 35, broad-shouldered, with piercing blue eyes that had stared down more enemies than he could count. "No questions, Captain. Orders from the top. You're to rendezvous with the Sovereign of Zerathia. It's a forced alliance. Their queen is complicated. But we need her fleet if we're going to turn this war around." Jax's heart skipped a beat. Zerathia, the enigmatic empire on the fringes of known space, ruled by beings who blended ancient mysticism with advanced tech. He'd heard the rumors their queen, Zorath, was cursed. A damned sovereign, they called her, afflicted by some ancient hex that made her untouchable, a pariah among her own kind and feared by outsiders, marrying into alliances with her people. It was political suicide, or so the whispers went, but a forced alliance. That sounded like a death sentence wrapped in bureaucracy. As he punched in the coordinates, his mind raced. Jax had always been a lone wolf, dreaming of a partner who could match his fire, a woman fierce, intelligent, with a spark that could ignite the stars. In his rare quiet moments, he'd fantasize about someone otherworldly, someone who understood the vastness of space and the thrill of battle. But this, being shackled to a cursed alien queen. It felt like the universe's cruel joke. The Eclipse streaked through hyperspace, emerging near the shimmering veil of Zerathia's border nebula. The sight took his breath away, swirling gases in hues of violet and gold, guarding a cluster of crystalline worlds that floated like jewels in the void. A Zerathian escort vessel, elegant and ethereal with its flowing, organic hull design, latched onto his ship with a gentle tractor beam. No resistance, no fight, just an inexorable pull toward destiny. Docking in the grand hall of the Zerathian flagship, Jax stepped out, his boots echoing on the polished obsidian floors. The air hummed with an otherworldly energy, scented with faint florals that reminded him of Earth's forgotten gardens. Guards in shimmering armor, tall, elfin figures with pointed ears and luminous skin flanked him, their eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. And then she appeared. Queen Zorath glided into the chamber, her presence commanding yet isolated. She was breathtaking in a way that defied human standards. Long, silken hair as white as fresh snow cascading down her back, framing a face of porcelain skin that seemed to glow from within. Her ears tapered to delicate points, like those of ancient Earth myths about elves, adding an exotic allure. Her body was a masterpiece of curves, gowned in a flowing garment of iridescent fabric that hugged her form, elegant, yet revealing, with slits that hinted at the strength and grace beneath. It was luxurious, almost seductive, embroidered with glowing runes that pulsed like a heartbeat. But her eyes, those violet orbs, held a shadow. The curse. Legend spoke of it. Anyone who grew too close to her would suffer misfortune, a psychic backlash that twisted fate itself. Her own people revered her from afar, but no one dared touch her soul. "Captain Harlan," she said, her voice a melodic whisper that echoed in his mind as much as his ears. It was rich, with an accent that rolled like distant thunder. "I am Zorath, sovereign of Zerathia. The stars have decreed our union, a forced alliance to seal our fates against the Vexar scourge." Jax swallowed hard, his pulse quickening not just from the gravity of the moment, but from an inexplicable pull. She was nothing like he'd imagined, yet everything. Strong, regal, with a quiet intensity that mirrored his own. But cursed. He could feel the weight of it in the air, a subtle chill that made the guards keep their distance. I don't believe in decrees, he replied, stepping closer despite the warnings in his briefing. But if this saves lives, I'll play along. Just know, Your Majesty, I'm not one for chains forced or otherwise. Her lips curved in a faint smile, revealing a glimpse of vulnerability beneath the crown. Then let us see if you can break this one, human. The ceremony begins at dawn. As they stood there, the nebula's light filtering through massive viewports, Jax felt a spark ignite. This wasn't just politics, it was a collision of worlds. And deep down, in the recesses of his dreams, he wondered if this damned queen might just be the one he'd been waiting for all along. The ceremony unfolded in a grand amphitheater aboard the flagship, surrounded by Zerathian nobles who watched from shadowed alcoves, their faces masks of cautious reverence. Incense burned in floating orbs, casting ethereal glows that danced across Zorath's skin. Jax, dressed in a borrowed uniform that blended human military crispness with Zerathian flair tight-fitting with glowing accents, stood before an ancient altar etched with runes. The high priest, an elderly Zerathian with wispy white hair and eyes like polished amethysts, intoned the rites in a language that vibrated through Jax's bones. Translators in his earpiece rendered it poetically in the weave of stars and souls, bind these two against the void. Let the curse be shared, the alliance forged in fire. Zorath extended her hand, palm up, revealing a faint scar that pulsed with inner light, the mark of her affliction. Jax hesitated for a split second, memories flashing of lost comrades, failed missions. But he took it, his rough, calloused fingers enveloping her soft, warm skin. A jolt shot through him, not pain, but a rush of images, glimpses of her life, isolated on her throne, yearning for connection amid the stars. The bond sealed with a flash of energy, linking their minds in a tentative psychic thread. Jax gasped, feeling her emotions brush against his loneliness, determination, a hidden fire that matched his own. What is this?" he murmured. "The alliance," she whispered back, her voice now echoing faintly in his thoughts. "You share my curse now, Captain, but perhaps you can bear it better than most." As the nobles murmured approvals from afar, Jax pulled her closer instinctively, ignoring protocol. Her scent, exotic spices and starlight, filled his senses. This wasn't just duty, it was intoxicating. And as the ship hummed toward the front lines, he realized the real battle was just beginning. The journey to the war zone took them through contested space, where Vexar patrols lurked like predators in the dark. Jax spent the hours in the command bridge, strategizing with Zorath's advisors. But it was her presence that dominated his thoughts. They shared meals in private quarters, the forced proximity breeding an unexpected intimacy. "Tell me about Earth," she said one evening, as they gazed at a holographic map of the galaxy. Her gown shifted as she leaned forward, the fabric whispering against her curves. Jax couldn't help but notice how the light played on her white hair, making it shimmer like a comet's tail. "It's a blue marble," he replied, his voice softening. "Oceans that crash like thunder, mountains that pierce the sky. We humans were stubborn, we fight for what we love." Her violet eyes met his, a spark of curiosity igniting. "And what do you love, Jax?" He paused, the psychic link humming between them. "Freedom. The rush of flight. And maybe something more if the stars align." She laughed softly, a sound like wind chimes in a breeze. It was the first crack in her regal facade, revealing a woman beneath the crown. As their hands brushed accidentally over the controls, that jolt returned stronger, warmer. Jax felt her dreams echo his, a partner who saw beyond the surface, who embraced the chaos, but danger loomed. Alarms blared as a Vexar ambush erupted from a nearby asteroid field. "Shields up," Jax shouted, leaping to the pilot's seat. Zorath joined him, her hands glowing with psychic energy as she amplified the ship's defenses. Laser fire rocked the vessel, sparks flying from consoles. Jax maneuvered with precision, his human ingenuity dodging what tech alone couldn't. "Hold on," he yelled, as Zorath channeled her curse, a burst of dark energy that disrupted the enemy sensors. Together they turned the tide, her magic weaving with his tech in a symphony of destruction. As the last enemy ship exploded in a fireball, Jax turned to her, breathless. "That was incredible." "So are you," she admitted, her cheeks flushing a faint lavender. The alliance was no longer just forced, it was forging something real. In the aftermath, as repairs hummed around them, Jax and Zorath found themselves alone in her chambers. The psychic bond deepened, sharing whispers of desire. "The curse, it warns me away from closeness," she confessed, her voice trembling. but with you it feels different." He stepped closer, his hand gently tracing her arm. "Then let's defy it." Their lips met in a tentative kiss, sparks of energy dancing between them. It was electric, a blend of human passion and alien mystery. Jax's dreams had always featured a woman like this, fierce, otherworldly. And now she was here. But the war raged on, and deeper threats awaited. The Vexar Emperor had learned of their alliance, vowing to shatter it. As they plotted their next move, Jax felt the curse's shadow stir, a premonition of betrayal or doom. Yet, with Zorath by his side, he was ready to face it all. The bond grew stronger with each passing day, their minds intertwining like vines in a cosmic garden. Jax taught her human tactics, guerrilla strikes, improvisation, while she revealed Zerathian secrets, how to bend space with thought, how to heal wounds with energy flows. Their conversations flowed effortlessly, laced with laughter and lingering glances. One night, as the ship cruised through a serene starfield, Zorath shared her past. "The curse came from an ancient artifact, stolen by traders. It isolates me, twists luck against those I care for." Jax placed his hand over hers. "I've beaten worse odds, we'll break it together." Her eyes softened, and in that moment, the air thickened with unspoken longing. She leaned in, her body pressing against his, the gown's fabric thin barrier between them. Jax's heart raced as he pulled her into an embrace, their kiss deepening, hands exploring with gentle curiosity. The psychic link amplified every sensation, turning touch into a cascade of shared emotions. It was more than physical, it was a merging of souls. Zorath's skin was cool yet inviting, her curves fitting perfectly against his frame. Jax marveled at her beauty, the pointed ears twitching slightly under his fingers, her white hair spilling like silk. As they surrendered to the moment, the curse whispered warnings, but they ignored it, lost in the discovery of each other. This alliance was becoming love, forged in the fires of war and desire. Yet, as they lay entwined, a distant explosion rocked the ship, a Vexar probe, scouting their position. The real storm was coming, and their bond would be tested like never before. Yet, as they lay entwined, a distant explosion rocked the ship, a Vexar probe, scouting their position. The real storm was coming, and their bond would be tested like never before. Jax bolted upright, his muscles tensing beneath the thin sheet that barely covered them, his senses sharpening to the familiar hum of alarm klaxons echoing through the corridors. Zorath stirred beside him, her white hair spilling across the pillows like a cascade of moonlight, her violet eyes fluttering open with a mix of drowsiness and alert grace. The psychic link between them pulsed with shared urgency, a silent whisper of danger that made his skin tingle. "Stay here," he murmured, his voice low and protective, as he swung his legs over the edge of the bed and reached for his uniform, pants crumpled on the floor. But she was already moving, her lithe form slipping from the sheets with the fluidity of a shadow. The gown she wore, now slightly askew from their earlier intimacy, clung to her curves, the iridescent fabric shimmering in the dim emergency lighting, accentuating the swell of her hips and the elegant arch of her back. Her small, pointed ears twitched slightly, picking up vibrations he couldn't hear, and her porcelain skin seemed to glow faintly, as if drawing energy from the ship's core. "I am no fragile ornament, Jax," she replied, her tone laced with a sultry defiance that sent a shiver down his spine. She placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch cool yet igniting, fingers tracing the line of his collarbone with a deliberate slowness that belied the chaos outside. Through their bond, he felt her resolve, a fierce, unyielding strength that mirrored his own humanity's indomitable spirit. It was intoxicating, this blend of alien mystery and raw power, making him want to pull her back into the warmth they had just shared. The ship shuddered again, a closer impact this time, and Jax grabbed her wrist gently, pulling her toward the door. "Then come with me. But if things go south, you let me handle the front lines." His blue eyes locked onto hers, the air between them thick with unspoken promises. As they hurried down the corridor, guards falling in behind them with weapons drawn, Jax couldn't shake the erotic undercurrent that lingered from their encounter. Every brush of her arm against his, every shared glance, amplified by the psychic thread, built a suspenseful tension that made his heart race, not just from the impending battle, but from the desire to claim her fully. Curse be damned. They burst onto the bridge, where holographic displays flickered with red alerts, mapping the encroaching Vexar fleet. The viewscreen showed a swarm of angular, insect-like ships emerging from the asteroid belt, their weapons charging with ominous glows. Zorath's advisors, tall and ethereal like her, bowed slightly but kept their distance, eyes wide with a mix of awe and fear. Sovereign, the probe was a harbinger, one reported, his voice trembling. They've locked onto our signature. Estimated time to engagement 5 minutes. Jax slid into the command chair, his fingers dancing over the controls with the precision of a seasoned pilot. Patch me into the eclipse. I need my fighter prepped. But Zorath stepped forward, her presence commanding the room. She placed her hand on the console, and a surge of psychic energy flowed through the systems, boosting the shields with a violet haze. "We fight as one," she declared, her voice resonating in his mind, sending waves of warmth through his body. He felt her essence brush against his thoughts, images of their bodies intertwined, her lips parting in a gasp of pleasure, mingling with strategic visions of flanking maneuvers and weak points in the enemy formation. The erotic charge of their bond heightened the suspense, turning the bridge into a pressure cooker of anticipation. Jax's mind wandered for a split second to the way her body had arched under his touch earlier, her small ears flushing a delicate pink as she whispered his name. It was a distraction he couldn't afford, yet it fueled him, making him sharper, more alive. "All right, let's dance," he growled, initiating evasive protocols. The flagship lurched into action, weaving through the debris field as Vexar lasers streaked past, close enough to singe the hull. Zorath stood beside him, her hand hovering near his, the air crackling with unspoken energy. As the first wave hit, she channeled her curse, a dark, swirling aura that disrupted the enemy's targeting systems, causing their shots to veer wildly. Jax countered with human ingenuity, deploying decoy drones that exploded in brilliant flares, drawing fire away. Their synergy was electric, every command he issued echoed in her mind, and her responses came as instinctive bursts of power. But the Vexar were relentless, their lead cruiser bearing down like a predator sensing weakness. A direct hit rocked the bridge, sparks flying as consoles overloaded. Zorath stumbled, and Jax caught her, his arms wrapping around her waist in a protective hold. Her body pressed against his, the heat of her skin seeping through the fabric, her breath quickening against his neck. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice husky, the psychic link flooding him with her sensations, a mix of adrenaline and a deeper, more primal urge. She nodded, her violet eyes darkening with intensity. "The curse, it's stirring. I can feel it trying to twist our luck." But instead of pulling away, she leaned into him, her fingers trailing down his chest, igniting sparks of desire amid the chaos. It was suspenseful torture, this dance between danger and intimacy, each explosion outside mirroring the building tension within. Jax wanted nothing more than to pin her against the bulkhead, to lose himself in her again, but the battle demanded focus. "Redirect power to forward cannons," he ordered, forcing his mind back to the fight. Zorath amplified the command psychically, her energy weaving through the ship like threads of silk, enhancing the weapons. They fired a salvo that tore through a Vexar interceptor, debris scattering like fireworks, yet the enemy adapted, deploying boarding pods that latched onto the hull with sickening thuds. "Intruders on decks 3 and 4, an advisor shouted. Jax grabbed a sidearm from the armory panel, his jaw set. "I'll handle it." "Zorath, stay here and coordinate." But she shook her head, summoning a glowing energy blade from thin air, a manifestation of her power. "We go together, the Alliance demands it." They raced through the corridors, the ship tilting under evasive maneuvers. The erotic pull between them grew with every step, their bond sharing flashes of memory, her nails digging into his back, the curve of her thigh against his. It made the suspense unbearable, heightening senses to every shadow, every distant clang of metal. They rounded a corner to find Vexar boarders hulking, armored figures with chitinous exoskeletons breaching a door. Jax opened fire, plasma bolts sizzling through the air, dropping one instantly. Zorath unleashed a psychic wave, the curse manifesting as tendrils of shadow that ensnared another, crushing its armor. They moved in tandem, his brute force complemented by her elegant lethality. A boarder lunged at her, and Jax tackled it, rolling across the deck in a tangle of limbs. He felt her concern spike through the link, followed by a rush of gratitude that warmed him like a lover's caress. As he dispatched the foe with a point-blank shot, Zorath pulled him to his feet, her body flush against his in the narrow space. Their breaths mingled, heavy and ragged, the heat of battle mingling with something deeper. You risk too much for me, she whispered, her lips brushing his ear, sending shivers down his spine. For us, he corrected, his hands sliding to the small of her back, feeling the sensual sway of her form. The corridor quieted momentarily, the immediate threat quelled, but the fleet outside still loomed. In that stolen second, he kissed her fiercely, tongues dancing in a brief, erotic clash that promised more. Her small ears quivered under his touch, her white hair tangling in his fingers, her luxurious gown riding up slightly to reveal the smooth expanse of her thigh. But alarms blared anew, a massive Vexar dreadnought emerging from hyperspace, its weapons locking on. They broke apart, pulses racing, the suspense coiling tighter. Jax knew this was no ordinary skirmish, it was a trap, designed to exploit their new alliance. Through the bond, he sensed Zorath's hidden fear, buried under layers of regal poise, and it only drew him closer. They returned to the bridge, hands brushing deliberately, the erotic tension simmering beneath the surface. We need to outmaneuver them, Jax said, plotting a risky slingshot around a nearby gas giant. Zorath nodded, her energy bolstering the engines. As the ship accelerated, G-forces pressing them back, their eyes met a silent vow amid the storm. The dreadnought fired, a beam of energy grazing their shields, causing systems to flicker. Zorath gasped, clutching the console, and Jax reached for her, steadying her with a firm grip. The touch lingered, fingers interlacing, the psychic link amplifying the intimacy. It was as if the universe conspired to heighten their connection, every near miss fueling the fire between them. In a daring move, Jax initiated the slingshot, the ship whipping around the planet's gravity well. Zorath poured her power into stabilizing the hull, her body glowing faintly, sweat beading on her porcelain skin. He watched her, mesmerized by the way her chest rose and fell, the gown clinging damply to her curves. The suspense built to a crescendo as they emerged on the dreadnought's flank, cannons blazing. Explosions lit the void, the enemy vessel cracking under the assault. But victory came at a cost. A feedback surge from Zorath's curse rippled through the bond, a wave of disorienting visions that made Jax's head spin. Images of betrayal, of loss, flickered in his mind, mingled with erotic echoes of her surrender. As the debris cleared, the immediate threat neutralized, they collapsed into each other's arms on the bridge, breaths sinking in exhausted harmony. The crew averted their eyes, respecting the sovereign's privacy, but Jax didn't care. He tilted her chin up, kissing her deeply, the erotic pull overwhelming the fatigue. We're not done yet, he murmured against her lips, feeling the curse's shadow loom larger. Little did they know, the Vexar Emperor had a personal stake in shattering their union, a secret that would test their bond to its limits. The days blurred into a haze of strategy sessions and stolen moments, the war's relentless pace only amplifying the suspenseful eroticism of their alliance. Jax found himself drawn to Zorath's chambers more often, the psychic thread pulling him like an invisible tether. One evening, as the ship drifted through a nebula's calming glow, he entered to find her bathed in soft light, her gown discarded for a simpler robe that hinted at the sensual form beneath. We must discuss the curse, she said, her voice a velvet invitation, but her eyes held a storm of uncertainty. Jax approached, his hands finding her waist, drawing her close. The air thickened, charged with anticipation, as he traced the line of her pointed ear, eliciting a soft gasp. Later, he whispered, his lips grazing her neck, tasting the faint salt of her skin. She melted against him, the bond sharing waves of pleasure that built slowly, suspensefully, each touch a promise of deeper exploration. Their bodies moved in a rhythm born of battle and desire, the erotic dance unfolding with deliberate slowness, heightening every sensation until the world narrowed to just them. Yet, even in ecstasy, the war whispered threats, a comms ping signaling incoming reinforcements, pulling them back to reality. The suspense never fully released, keeping their passion on a knife's edge, ready for the next twist in the galactic storm. Yet, even in ecstasy, the war whispered threats, a comms ping signaling incoming reinforcements, pulling them back to reality. The suspense never fully released, keeping their passion on a knife's edge, ready for the next twist in the galactic storm. Jax pulled away from Zorath's embrace with a reluctant growl, his body still humming from their shared intensity, as the bridge lights flickered back to full alert. The psychic bond between them throbbed like a living thing, echoing her lingering desire with his own unresolved hunger, but the universe had no patience for lovers in wartime. Incoming fleet signature, an advisor called out. his voice cutting through the haze like a blade. Vexar reinforcements larger than before. They're converging on our position. Zorath straightened her robe with a graceful flick, her white hair tousled in a way that made her look more warrior than queen. Her pointed ears perking up as if sensing the enemy's malice in the ether. Her violet eyes narrowed, glowing faintly with that inner power, and Jax felt a surge of her emotions through the link, fear laced with defiance, curiosity about what secrets this assault might unveil. "They know of our alliance," she said, her melodic voice now edged with steel. "The Emperor himself must be directing this. He fears what we represent." Jax's mind raced, piecing together fragments from intercepted transmissions they'd decoded earlier. The Vexar Emperor, a shadowy figure rumored to be more machine than flesh, had long coveted Zerathia's mystical artifacts. But this felt personal, a dramatic escalation that screamed of hidden agendas. He slammed his fist on the console, activating full battle stations. "All hands, prepare for engagement. Zorath, can you amp up the sensors? I need to see what's hiding in that formation." She nodded, her hands glowing as she interfaced with the ship's core, weaving psychic threads into the machinery. The viewscreen expanded, revealing a horrifying sight, not just ships, but a colossal flagship at the center, dwarfing the others like a predator among prey. It was the Emperor's personal vessel, the Oblivion, a behemoth armored in black alloy, bristling with weapons that could vaporize planets. Jax's heart pounded, a thrilling mix of adrenaline and awe washing over him. This wasn't a skirmish, it was the climax of their fledgling war, a confrontation that could shatter alliances or forge legends. As the fleet closed in, lasers painting the void in streaks of deadly light, Jax dove into the pilot's seat, his fingers blurring over controls. The flagship lurched forward, evading the first volley with a grace born of their combined strengths, his human piloting instincts fused with her ethereal enhancements. Explosions bloomed around them, debris clanging against the hull like angry hail. "Hold steady," he shouted, spinning the ship into a corkscrew maneuver that brought them perilously close to an enemy cruiser. Zorath channeled her energy, unleashing a psychic barrage that scrambled the cruiser's systems, causing it to fire wildly into its own ranks. The battle unfolded in a symphony of chaos, thrilling in its intensity. Jax felt every impact reverberate through his bones, the ship's groans mirroring the strain on their bond. Through the link, he glimpsed Zorath's thoughts, flashes of ancient prophecies from her world's lore, hinting at a damned union that could either doom or save the stars. It sparked curiosity in him, a burning question: what if the curse wasn't just a burden, but a key to something greater? But there was no time to ponder. A squadron of Vexar fighters peeled off, swarming like insects toward their bridge. "They're targeting us directly," Zorath warned, her voice trembling not with fear, but with a dramatic resolve that made Jax's pulse quicken. She stood tall, her gown now torn at the edges from the earlier rush clinging to her gowned form, accentuating the sensual lines of her body even in the midst of peril. Her white skin flushed with effort, small pointed ears flattening slightly against her head as she concentrated. Jax admired her then, a surge of protective instinct mingling with the erotic echoes from before, turning the danger into something almost intoxicating. He activated the Eclipse remotely, launching his personal fighter from the hangar bay in a daring solo run. "Cover me, I'm going for the Oblivion's weak spot." Zorath's eyes widened, a surprising flicker of protest crossing the bond. "Jax, no. The curse, it could turn against you out there." But he was already suiting up, the thrill of the unknown propelling him forward. As he jetted out into the void, the stars wheeling around him, he felt her presence in his mind like a warm anchor, guiding his path through the laser storm. The fighters closed in, their pilots faceless behind visors, but Jax weaved through them with predatory skill. One exploded in a fireball as he nailed its engines, another spun out of control from a glancing hit. But then, a surprising twist: the Oblivion's main cannon powered up, not aiming at the flagship but directly at him. "Evasive," Zorath's voice echoed in his head, urgent and laced with emotion. He barrel-rolled just in time, the beam scorching past, singeing his shields. The near miss sent a jolt through their link, her fear crashing into him like a wave, heightening the drama to unbearable levels. Deeper into the fray, Jax spotted a structural flaw in the Oblivion's armor, a glowing seam where ancient Zerathian runes had been etched, perhaps from a previous conquest. Curiosity burned: how did the Emperor acquire that? He dove toward it, lasers nipping at his tail, the thrill building to a fever pitch. Zorath amplified his sensors psychically, revealing hidden minefields and cloaked drones. "You're too close," she pleaded, but her voice held a note of awe, as if she were discovering his unbreakable spirit anew. In a heart-stopping moment, a drone latched onto his wing, its claws digging in with mechanical tenacity. Alarms blared in the cockpit, systems failing one by one. Jax wrestled with the controls, the ship bucking like a wild beast. Through the bond, he felt Zorath's desperation. She was channeling everything, her curse manifesting as dark tendrils that reached across space, trying to dislodge the drone. But it exploded in a controlled burst, sending him tumbling toward the Oblivion's hull. Time slowed in that dramatic instant, the galaxy holding its breath. Jax ejected at the last second, his suit's thrusters firing to propel him onto the enemy ship's surface. He landed hard, mag boots clamping down amid the vacuum's silence. The thrill was electric, every nerve alive with the danger. "Jax!" Zorath's cry rang in his mind, full of raw emotion. He could feel her heart racing in sync with his, the psychic link turning their separation into a curious bridge of shared sensation, her breath quickening as if she were there with him. Crawling along the hull, plasma cutter in hand, Jax approached the rune-etched seam. Up close, the symbols pulsed with familiar energy, Zerathian magic, twisted and corrupted. A surprising revelation hit him: this wasn't conquest, it was theft. The Emperor had stolen the very artifact that cursed Zorath, using it to power his war machine. "The curse, it's here?" he transmitted back, his voice laced with wonder. "He's weaponized it." Zorath's response was a gasp of shock, her mind flooding his with memories, flashes of a betrayal long ago, a traitor from her court who sold the artifact to the Vexar. The drama unfolded in his thoughts, her isolation, the Empire's fear, all stemming from this one act. It fueled him, turning curiosity into righteous fury. He ignited the cutter, sparks flying in the void as he breached the seam. Inside the Oblivion's corridors, alarms wailed, red lights strobing like blood. Vexar guards, hulking cyborgs with glowing red eyes, converged on him, weapons humming. Jax fought like a demon, his sidearm barking plasma bolts that felled them one by one. The thrilling chase led deeper into the ship, each corner hiding surprises, automated turrets that he dodged with acrobatic flips, force fields that shimmered and failed under his improvised hacks. Zorath guided him psychically, her voice a lifeline amid the storm. "Left at the next junction, the core is near." But as he pressed on, a curious anomaly tugged at the bond, whispers from the curse itself, ancient voices murmuring of destiny. It built suspense, making him question if this was a trap or a turning point. Finally, he burst into the core chamber, a vast room dominated by the stolen artifact, a crystalline orb pulsing with dark energy, suspended in a web of conduits. The Emperor stood there, a towering figure cloaked in shadows, his face a mask of circuits and scars. "Human fool," he rasped, his voice mechanical and echoing. "You dare challenge the inevitable?" Jax raised his weapon, the climax hanging in the air like a charged storm. "Inevitable? You're just a thief hiding behind stolen power." The Emperor laughed, a chilling sound, and activated the orb. A wave of psychic backlash hit Jax, the curse amplifying tenfold. Visions of doom flooding his mind, ships exploding, Zorath screaming in agony. But in that thrilling surge, a surprise emerged: the bond with Zorath acted as a shield. Her love, her strength filtered through, turning the curse's darkness into light. Jax pushed forward, dodging energy blasts that scorched the walls, his movements a blur of human resilience. He leaped onto a platform, firing at the conduits, sparks cascading like fireworks. The Emperor charged, mechanical limbs whirring, but Jax was faster, sliding under a swipe. He planted an explosive charge on the orb's base. "For Zerathia," he roared, detonating it in a blinding flash. The chamber erupted, energy rippling outward in waves that shook the entire ship. As debris rained down, Jax felt the bond strain, Zorath's flagship under heavy fire, her voice fading in his mind. "Hold on, I'm coming back." He sprinted for an escape pod, the Oblivion crumbling around him, the Emperor's screams lost in the inferno. Ejecting into space, he watched the dreadnought fracture, explosions blooming like dying stars. But the victory was bittersweet. Through the link, he sensed a new threat, a fragment of the curse lingering, curious and unbound, whispering of greater surprises ahead. The battle's climax had shifted the war, but at what cost? Jax's pod hurtled toward the flagship, heart pounding with dramatic uncertainty, the thrill of survival mingling with the surprising depth of his feelings for the damned queen who had become his everything. The reunion was imminent, yet the galaxy held its breath, curious about the twists still to come. The reunion was imminent, yet the galaxy held its breath, curious about the twists still to come. Jax's escape pod streaked through the debris field like a comet tailing fire, the wreckage of the Oblivion scattering in silent bursts behind him, each fragment a testament to the chaos he'd unleashed. His suit's life support hummed steadily, but his mind was a whirlwind, the psychic bond with Zorath flickering like a signal through static, her relief washing over him in waves, mingled with a sharp undercurrent of worry that made his chest tighten. The flagship loomed ahead, its elegant spires silhouetted against the nebula's glow, a beacon of fragile hope amid the storm. As the pod clamped onto the docking bay with a resounding thud, Jax braced himself, the drama of the moment swelling like a crescendo in some epic symphony of stars. The airlock cycled open with a hiss, and there she was, Zorath, rushing forward with a grace that belied the turmoil in her eyes, her white hair disheveled from the bridge's frenzy, her pointed ears twitching with unspoken agitation. Guards hovered nearby, but she waved them off, her luxurious gown now smudged with soot from overloaded consoles swirling around her curves like a banner of defiance. Jax stumbled out, helmet retracting to reveal his sweat-streaked face, and she caught him in an embrace that was equal parts tender and desperate, her body pressing against his armored suit in a way that sent sparks through their link. "You reckless fool," she whispered, her voice cracking with emotion, violet eyes brimming with a mix of tears and fire. "I felt the curse lash out. I thought I'd lost you." He held her tight, the warmth of her porcelain skin seeping through the cold metal, but as the bond deepened, a flood of images hit her on the bridge, channeling every ounce of power to shield the ship, her hands trembling as visions of his demise haunted her. The drama heightened in that instant, the weight of their alliance crashing down like a supernova's aftershock. "I'm here," he murmured, pulling back just enough to cup her face, his thumb brushing her cheek. But then, in the awkward haze of adrenaline fading, he realized the entire docking crew was staring wide-eyed Zerathians, their luminous skins paling further, whispering among themselves about the damned touch that no one dared witness up close. One young guard, a lanky fellow with ears even pointier than Zorath's, cleared his throat loudly, shifting from foot to foot. "Sovereign Captain, the protocols dictate a decontamination scan after enemy contact." His voice squeaked at the end, turning the order into a question, and Jax couldn't help but chuckle, a low rumble that cut through the tension like a badly timed joke at a funeral. "Decontamination? After I just blew up their flagship. What's next, a pat-down for souvenirs?" Zorath's lips twitched, a reluctant smile breaking through her worry, but the guard flushed lavender, stammering apologies as he fumbled with a scanner that looked more like a glowing wand from some fairy tale. The situation spiraled into awkward comedy as the scan beeped erratically, detecting residual curse energy clinging to Jax like cosmic lint. It's fluctuating, Your Majesty," the guard said, eyes darting between them. "Perhaps if you step apart." Zorath shot him a regal glare that could wilt stars, but Jax played along, stepping back with exaggerated flair. "Better safe than sorry. Wouldn't want to curse the whole crew though. If it means more alone time with you, I might risk it." She rolled her eyes, a human gesture she'd picked up from him, but the humor lightened the air, drawing soft laughs from the crew, who seemed relieved to see their isolated queen bantering like a normal being. Yet beneath the levity, drama simmered. As they made their way to the medbay protocol, be damned, Zorath's hand slipped into his, her fingers intertwining with a possessiveness that sent shivers down his spine. The psychic link hummed with revelations from the artifact's destruction. Fragments of the curse had splintered, some dissipating into the void, others lingering, like echoes in a vast chamber. "The Emperor's fall has weakened it," she confided in a low voice, her breath warm against his ear as they walked. "But I feel remnants stirring within us. It's as if the bond has absorbed part of it, twisting our fates even tighter." In the medbay, the awkwardness escalated to new heights. The chief healer, an elderly Zerathian woman with wispy hair and a no-nonsense demeanor, insisted on a full scan for both of them. "Strip down. Captain can't have human contaminants mucking up my readings." Jax raised an eyebrow, glancing at Zorath, who was already shedding her outer robe with the poise of royalty, revealing a form-fitting undergarment that hugged her sensual curves like a second skin. He hesitated, the drama of vulnerability clashing with the absurdity of the moment. "Here, in front of everyone?" the healer snorted. "Modesty is for planet-siders. Out here, survival trumps embarrassment." Jax complied with a wry grin, peeling off his suit layer by layer, his toned physique drawing appreciative murmurs from the assistants, much to Zorath's visible annoyance, her violet eyes narrowing in a flash of jealousy that zipped through the bond like a playful zap. "Eyes on the monitors, not the human," she commanded, her tone imperious but undercut by a blush creeping up her neck. Jax laughed outright, the humor bubbling up as he stood there in his undershirt and pants. "Jealous, Your Majesty. I thought curses were your thing, not possessiveness." She swatted his arm lightly, the contact sparking a brief psychic flare that made the scanners go haywire, beeping like a chorus of confused birds. The healer grumbled, recalibrating. "This bond of yours is a mess, energy spikes everywhere. It's like trying to scan a supernova mid-explosion." As the readings came in, the drama deepened. The curse fragments had indeed integrated into their link, enhancing their powers but introducing unpredictable surges. One such surge hit during the scan, flooding Jax with Zorath's memories, intimate glimpses of her lonely reign, nights spent gazing at stars, dreaming of a partner who wouldn't fear her touch. It was raw, exposing, and he felt her pull back mentally, an awkward wall slamming up in the bond. "Sorry," she muttered, avoiding his gaze as the healer prattled on about stabilization rituals. Jax reached for her hand again, squeezing gently. "Don't be, it's intimate, like peeking into your diary." She shot him a look, half amused, half mortified. "A diary? Humans and their quaint analogies. Mine would be encrypted in star charts." The exchange lightened the mood, but the underlying tension heightened. What if these surges grew uncontrollable? What if the curse turned their love into a weapon against themselves? Leaving the med bay, they headed to her quarters for a much-needed debrief, the ship's corridors buzzing with news of the Oblivion's destruction. Crew members saluted with newfound respect, whispering of the human hero who braved the damned artifact. But in private, the awkwardness peaked when Jax tripped over a loose panel, curse surge or plain clumsiness, and tumbled onto the bed, pulling Zorath down with him in a tangle of limbs. She landed atop him, her white hair curtaining their faces, her body molding perfectly against his. For a heartbeat, drama hung heavy, their breaths mingling, the bond pulsing with desire and doubt. "You did that on purpose," she accused, but her voice was breathy, eyes darkening. Jax grinned, hands settling on her hips. "Me? I'm just a clumsy Earth boy. Blame the stars." She laughed, a melodic sound that eased the knot in his chest, but then sobered. "The Vexar remnants are regrouping. Scouts report a counterattack brewing near the core worlds. And with the curse altered, we must prepare." The drama escalated as they pored over holographic maps, her pointed ears brushing his shoulder as she leaned in, the proximity stirring memories of their earlier passions. A sudden surge hit, projecting a shared vision, a future where their bond shattered empires, but at the cost of one life. It was thrillingly ominous, leaving them breathless. "We can't let that happen," Jax said, pulling her close. But in the awkward silence that followed, he cracked a joke. "If I go down, at least make my statue heroic, none of that tripping over panels pose." She smiled, but her eyes held storms. As they planned their next move, a daring raid on a Vexar outpost to capture intel, the humor faded into resolve. Yet the curse's remnants toyed with them. During a simulation, Jax's controls glitched, sending a holographic fighter careening into Zorath's virtual ship. "Oops," he said sheepishly, as the sim reset. "Curse or operator error." She arched an eyebrow. "With you it's hard to tell." The awkward interplay built drama, each mishap underscoring the fragility of their union. But it also strengthened them, human grit meeting alien mysticism in a dance of fate. As alarms signaled the outpost's approach, Jax suited up, Zorath by his side, her gown traded for battle attire that accentuated her warrior grace. Together, she vowed, sealing it with a kiss that sparked energy arcs around them. The raid unfolded with heart-pounding intensity, stealth insertions into the outpost's cavernous halls, Vexar patrols lurking in shadows. Jax's humor surfaced, intense whispers, "Think they have coffee? I could use a jolt that's not curse-related," earning a stifled laugh from Zorath, lightening the dread. But drama crested when they breached the data core, only to trigger a trap force field snapping shut, guards swarming. In the melee, Zorath's powers flared, shadows coiling like lovers' embraces to disarm foes, while Jax's shots rang true, each one a punctuation in their symphony of survival. An awkward moment arose mid-fight, a surge made Jax's weapon jam, and he resorted to tackling a guard, rolling in a comical heap. "Not my finest," he grunted, as Zorath blasted the enemy off him. But effective. They escaped with the intel coordinates for the Vexar's final stronghold, hearts racing, bond thrumming. Back on the ship, exhaustion hit, but so did clarity. The curse wasn't just a damnation, it was evolving, perhaps into a gift. Yet as they collapsed together, a new surge brought visions of betrayal from within Zerathia, a traitor lurking. The drama heightened to a fever pitch, awkward suspicions clouding their trust, tempered by humor in Jax's quip, "Great, now we're in a spy thriller." Past the popcorn, the galaxy's twists were far from over, their alliance a fragile flame in the void. The galaxy's twists were far from over, their alliance a fragile flame in the void. Back in Zorath's quarters after the raid, the weight of the intel they'd captured hung heavy in the air, holographic displays flickering with maps of the Vexar stronghold, but Jax could barely focus. The curse's surge had left them both drained, yet buzzing with an undercurrent of energy that crackled between them like static before a storm. Zorath paced slowly, her battle attire form-fitting and practical, yet accentuating the graceful lines of her body, still bearing the marks of combat, a tear along the sleeve, smudges of alien dust on her porcelain skin. Her white hair fell loosely, framing her face in a way that made her violet eyes seem even more luminous, her small pointed ears subtly quivering as she processed the visions they'd shared. "We have the coordinates," she said softly, stopping to lean against the console, her voice a melodic anchor in the quiet hum of the ship. "But this traitor," the surge showed fragments of deceit from within my own court. "We must root it out before we strike." Jax nodded, rising from where he'd been seated on the edge of the bed, his muscles aching from the fight, but his mind sharp with the bond's lingering echoes. He crossed to her, drawn by that invisible pull, his hand gently resting on her shoulder. The touch sent a warm ripple through them, the psychic link amplifying the comfort into something deeper, more intimate, a reminder of how intertwined they'd become. She turned to face him, her expression softening, the regal mask slipping to reveal the woman beneath, vulnerable, yearning. "Jax, these visions, they scare me. What if the curse uses our closeness against us?" Her fingers traced the line of his jaw, light as a whisper, igniting a spark that traveled straight to his core. He pulled her closer, their bodies aligning in a familiar, comforting press, the heat building slowly as the drama of the day melted into this private sanctuary. "Then we face it together," he replied, his voice low and reassuring, leaning in to brush his lips against hers in a gentle kiss that quickly deepened, fueled by the adrenaline still coursing through their veins. The kiss evolved, her hands sliding up his back, pulling him nearer as if to merge their essences completely. Jax felt the bond open wider, sharing sensations in waves, the softness of her skin under his palms, the subtle tremble of her form against his. They moved toward the bed without breaking contact, the world narrowing to just them, the war, the traitor, the curse, all fading into the background. Zorath's attire slipped away easily, revealing the elegant curves that had captivated him from the start, her body a canvas of smooth, glowing porcelain that invited exploration. He shed his own clothes with equal urgency, the air between them charged with anticipation, every touch heightened by their connection. As they lay together, the intimacy unfolded with a tenderness that belied the passion simmering beneath. Jax's hands roamed gently, tracing the contours of her hips, the arch of her back, eliciting soft sighs from her that echoed in his mind through the link. She responded in kind, her fingers exploring his chest, his shoulders, discovering the strength that had saved them time and again. Their movements were synchronized, a dance of give and take, where every caress built upon the last, creating a rhythm that was both soothing and exhilarating. The psychic thread wove their pleasures together, allowing him to feel her delight as his own, her breaths quickening in harmony with his. Zorath arched slightly under his touch, her violet eyes locking onto his with an intensity that spoke volumes, trust, desire, a silent affirmation of their bond. "You make me feel alive," she whispered, her voice breathy, as she guided him closer, their bodies joining in a moment of profound connection. The sensation was overwhelming, a blend of physical warmth and emotional depth, where the curse's remnants seemed to transform into something empowering rather than destructive. Waves of shared ecstasy built gradually, each peak drawing them nearer, their forms moving in perfect unison, sweat glistening on their skin like stars on a night sky. Time lost meaning in that embrace, the ship's gentle vibrations a distant lullaby, as they explored one another with care and reverence. Jax marveled at her responsiveness, the way her small ears flushed with color, her white hair spilling across the pillows like a halo. She, in turn, delighted in his human warmth, the way his touch grounded her ethereal nature. Their climax came as a shared crescendo, a burst of energy that rippled through the bond, leaving them breathless and entwined, hearts pounding in sync. In the afterglow, they lay wrapped in each other, the intimacy lingering like a soft glow, reinforcing the alliance that had started as forced but had blossomed into something genuine. Yet even in this serene moment, the curse stirred subtly a faint whisper in the back of their minds, hinting at unresolved shadows. Zorath nestled against his chest, her head resting on his shoulder, fingers idly tracing patterns on his skin. "That was more than I imagined," she admitted, a shy smile playing on her lips. Jax chuckled softly, kissing the top of her head. "For me too. You're everything I didn't know I needed." The words hung between them, deepening the emotional tie, but the practicalities of their situation crept back in. The intel from the outpost needed analysis, the traitor's identity pursued. Rising reluctantly, they dressed in comfortable robes, hers a flowing silk that draped elegantly over her form, his a simple wrap that felt foreign yet fitting. They returned to the console, the holographic display springing to life under Zorath's touch. As they sifted through the data, the bond allowed seamless collaboration, Jax's tactical mind spotting vulnerabilities in the stronghold's defenses, while her psychic insights revealed hidden energy signatures that could be curse-related traps. "Look here," she pointed, zooming in on an encrypted file. "This mentions a council member, Ilen, one of my advisors. The visions showed betrayal. Could it be her?" Jax frowned, cross-referencing with human databases synced to the ship. "She's been in contact with Vexar channels. Subtle, but there. We need to confront this quietly." The drama resurfaced, tempered by their recent closeness, making the stakes feel even more personal. A surge hit then, milder than before, projecting a brief image Ellen in shadowed talks, but with a twist, the artifact's fragments influencing her actions, perhaps against her will. "Not outright treason," Zorath mused, relief evident. "The curse manipulated her. We can save her." Planning the confrontation added layers of tension, but their intimacy had fortified them, turning fear into determination. They decided on a discreet meeting in the throne room, luring Ilen under pretense of strategy talks. As preparations unfolded, Jax stole glances at Zorath, the memory of their shared moments bringing a quiet smile to his face. She caught one, her eyes sparkling. "Focus, Captain," she teased, but the bond betrayed her own lingering warmth. The meeting convened under dim lights, the throne room's crystalline walls reflecting their resolve. Ilen entered, tall and ethereal like Zorath, her own white hair braided intricately, pointed ears adorned with subtle jewels. "Sovereign, you summoned me?" Zorath nodded, gesturing for privacy as guards withdrew. Jax stood by her side, his presence a silent pillar. "We've uncovered anomalies in communications. Tell us about your dealings with the Vexar." Ilen's face paled, her luminous skin dimming. "It wasn't me, not fully. The artifact," it whispered, "compelled actions I regret." The admission hung heavy, drama thickening the air. Zorath extended her hand, channeling a purifying energy through the bond, amplified by Jax's steady support. A glow enveloped Ilen, the curse fragment dissolving in a shimmer of light. "You're free," Zorath declared, forgiveness in her tone. Ilen bowed deeply, gratitude shining in her eyes. "I will atone by aiding the final assault." With the internal threat neutralized, their path cleared for the stronghold raid, but the intimacy they'd shared lingered, infusing every decision with a personal stake. As the ship hurtled toward destiny, Jax and Zorath found stolen moments, gentle touches, whispered affirmations that kept the flame alive. One evening, as stars streaked past the viewport, they came together again, the passion reignited with a deeper understanding. Their bodies moved with familiarity now, exploring nuances they'd missed before, the way her skin warmed under his kiss, the soft sounds she made that echoed in his soul. The bond enhanced every sensation, turning their union into a symphony of shared bliss, where peaks and valleys built to mutual fulfillment. In the quiet aftermath, they discussed the future, a life beyond war, perhaps exploring uncharted galaxies together. With you, the curse feels like a blessing, she confessed, nestled in his arms. Jax smiled, tracing her pointed ear. And you're the dream I never knew I had. Yet the stronghold loomed, its defenses formidable. Scouts reported heavy fortifications, Vexar remnants desperate and armed with salvaged tech. Jax devised a multi-pronged attack, infiltration teams led by him, psychic disruptions from Zorath, and redeemed allies like Ellen providing inside intel. The plan was risky, drama inherent in every detail, but their strengthened connection made it feasible. As launch hour approached, they shared one last intimate moment, a tender embrace that promised return. "Come back to me," she whispered, her body pressing against his in farewell. "Always," he vowed, the bond sealing it. The assault began with stealth insertions, Jax's team navigating asteroid cover to breach the outer rings. Laser fire erupted, the void alive with conflict. He fought with precision, the bond guiding him through Zorath's eyes, spotting ambushes, coordinating strikes. A close call came when a turret locked on. Zorath's energy deflected it just in time, their link a lifeline. Deeper in, they reached the core, a pulsating reactor fueled by lingering artifact shards. Vexar elites guarded it, their cybernetic enhancements making them formidable. Jax dueled one, dodging augmented strikes, his human agility prevailing. Zorath's voice in his mind, "Now overload the shards." He planted charges, the explosion cascading in controlled chaos. Victory surged as the stronghold crumbled, Vexar forces scattering. Back on the flagship, reunited in triumph, their celebration was private, a night of renewed passion, bodies entwining with grateful intensity, the bond free of shadows. The war's end dawned, their alliance unbreakable. The war's end dawned, their alliance unbreakable. In the quiet hours following their victory, as the flagship charted a course back to Zerathia's crystalline worlds, Jax and Zorath lingered in the afterglow of their triumph. The vastness of space outside the viewport, a canvas of peaceful stars rather than battle scars. The Vexar remnants had fled into the outer rims, their empire fractured beyond repair, and whispers of peace treaties already echoed through interstellar channels. Jax lay beside her, his arm draped over her waist, feeling the steady rise and fall of her breathing sync with his own through the bond, a rhythm that had become as natural as his heartbeat. Her white hair splayed across his chest like threads of silver moonlight, her pointed ears relaxed in a rare moment of unguarded repose, and her porcelain skin still carried the faint flush from their passionate reunion. "You know," he murmured, tracing lazy circles on her back, "I never thought I'd find home in the stars. But with you, it feels right." Zorath shifted slightly, propping herself up on one elbow to gaze down at him, her violet eyes shimmering with a depth that pulled him in like gravity. "And I, who have ruled alone for so long, never imagined a human could unravel the isolation of my curse. You've given me more than victory, Jax. You've given me hope." Their lips met in a soft, lingering kiss, the psychic link humming with contentment, sharing echoes of joy that wrapped around them like a warm nebula. But as the ship hummed onward, a subtle unease began to creep in, a faint discord in the bond, like a distant signal interference that Jax dismissed at first as fatigue. They rose eventually, dressing in casual attire, he in a simple tunic that hugged his broad frame, she in a flowing robe that accentuated her elegant curves without the weight of royal regalia. Hand in hand, they wandered to the observation deck, where the crew had gathered in subdued celebration, toasting with glowing Zerathian elixirs that tasted like liquid starlight. Ellen approached, her braided hair neat once more, a symbol of her redemption. "Sovereign, Captain, the Federation hails us as heroes. They've requested a joint council to formalize the peace." Zorath nodded graciously, but Jax caught a flicker in her expression, a momentary shadow that vanished as quickly as it appeared. Through the bond, he sensed it, a guarded thought, tucked away like a hidden compartment. "Something wrong?" he asked quietly, squeezing her hand. She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "Just the burdens of rule resurfacing. Nothing we can't handle together." They mingled with the crew, sharing stories of the raid, the close calls, the explosions that lit the void, and laughter filled the air, a rare sound on a ship once steeped in isolation. As the evening wore on, Jax excused himself to check on the eclipse in the hangar, his pilot's instincts urging a routine inspection. The bay was dimly lit, technicians bustling like shadows, and he ran his hands over the fighter's sleek hull, memories of dogfights flashing in his mind. But as he accessed the diagnostic console, an anomaly popped up: encrypted logs from the ship's core, flagged during the stronghold breach. Curiosity piqued. He decrypted them with a human override code simple enough, given the hybrid systems now integrated post-alliance. What he found sent a chill through him. Fragments of communications, not from Vexar remnants, but from within Zerathia itself. Coordinates exchanged, artifact schematics shared, and timestamps aligning with Zorath's private sessions. His heart pounded as he dug deeper, the bond suddenly feeling like a double-edged blade, her presence in his mind now a potential veil. One message stood out: the human serves his purpose. Once the curse is fully transferred, dispose as planned. Signed with a royal cipher that matched Zorath's own. Jax staggered back, the revelation hitting like a plasma blast. The curse wasn't just an ancient affliction, it was an engineered tool, a psychic parasite designed by Zerathian ancients to siphon power from alliances, turning partners into unwitting vessels. And Zorath she had known. The forced alliance wasn't fate or politics, it was a calculated trap to offload the curse onto him, amplifying her empire's strength while discarding the host. Flashes from their bond replayed in his mind: her isolation, a fabricated tale to draw him in, the surges, deliberate tests to ensure the transfer, even their intimate moments, laced with subtle manipulations to deepen the link. Betrayal surged through him, hot and bitter, but he clamped down on the bond, masking his thoughts with practiced calm, a skill honed from years of covert ops. How had he missed it? The dreams of a perfect partner, had she planted those too, weaving illusions into his subconscious? He thought of her touch, her whispers, now tainted with deception. The powerful twist unraveled everything: she wasn't the damned sovereign redeemed by love. She was the architect, using humanity's indomitable spirit as fuel for her throne. Rage battled with heartbreak as he made his way back, the ship's corridors suddenly feeling like a labyrinth of lies. He found her in their quarters, gazing out at the stars, her back to him, the robe slipping slightly off one shoulder to reveal the graceful curve of her neck. "Jax," she said without turning, her voice warm. "The council awaits our response. Shall we announce our eternal union?" The bond pulsed with what felt like genuine affection, but now he saw the artifice: the curse's tendrils mimicking emotion to complete the transfer. He stepped closer, his voice steady despite the storm inside. "First, tell me about the artifact. The real story." She froze, her pointed ears twitching, a tell he hadn't noticed before. Slowly she turned, violet eyes widening in surprise, but not denial. "What have you uncovered?" The bond cracked then, her guarded walls crumbling under his probe, revealing the truth in vivid flashes: her desperation to save Zerathia from internal collapse, the curse's drain on her life force, the calculated choice of a strong human to bear it instead. "It was necessary," she whispered, stepping toward him, her hands outstretched. "But I didn't expect to care. Truly care." The surprise deepened as Jax felt the curse shift within him, its power awakening not as a burden, but as a weapon. Humanity's resilience, the HFY spirit that turned adversity into triumph, began to rewrite the psychic code. He grabbed her wrists gently but firmly, the bond reversing flow, siphoning the deception back. "You underestimated us," he said, his blue eyes hardening. "Humans don't break, we adapt." Energy crackled between them, her glow dimming as his strengthened, the twist turning the tables in an instant. Zorath gasped, stumbling back, her white hair losing its luster as the curse recoiled. "Jax, please, it wasn't all a lie." But the visions poured out: council plots to expand Zerathia's influence using the alliance as a facade, Jax as the sacrificial pawn. The drama peaked in that room, the galaxy's peace hanging by a thread on this personal betrayal. He released her, the bond severing with a psychic snap that echoed like thunder in his mind. "The alliance ends here. But the war? That's on you now." He stormed out, alerting the Federation via a secure channel, the ship's alarms blaring as loyalists, Ilan among them, her redemption a ruse mobilized. The twist had shattered the illusion, revealing Zerathia not as allies, but opportunists cloaked in mysticism. Jax rallied the human contingent aboard, their ingenuity clashing with Zerathian magic in a sudden onboard skirmish. Lasers met energy shields, fists against ethereal forms, But humanity's grit prevailed, improvised EMPs disrupting psychic fields, turning the tide. In the chaos, Zorath confronted him on the bridge, her form weakened but regal. "I fell for you, Jax. That wasn't part of the plan." Tears glistened in her violet eyes, the first genuine emotion he'd seen. The surprise lingered, perhaps not all was deception. The bond had forged real connection amid the scheme. But trust was broken. "Too late," he replied, overriding the controls to lock her out. As Federation reinforcements hyperspaced in, Jax escaped in the eclipse, the stars blurring as he jumped away. The galaxy reeled from the revelation Zerathia's plot exposed, the curse's remnants now his to wield as a tool for justice. He became a legend, the human who turned a sovereign's trap into humanity's ascendancy, proving once more that in the vast cosmos, no force could dim the unyielding light of human resolve. Yet in quiet moments, he wondered about her, the damned queen, who had almost been his dream. The twist left scars, but also strength. As Jax charted a new course, the bond's echo a reminder of love's fragile edge in the stars. The twist left scars, but also strength. As Jax charted a new course, the bond's echo a reminder of love's fragile edge in the stars. Alone in the eclipse's cockpit, Jax stared at the hyperspace streaks blurring past, his hands gripping the controls tighter than necessary, the ship's hum a poor substitute for the psychic warmth he'd once craved. The Federation had hailed him as a hero upon his return transmission. Exposing Zerathia's scheme had shifted alliances overnight, with human fleets mobilizing to counter any retaliatory strikes. But victory tasted like ash. The curse's remnants pulsed within him now, a controlled power that enhanced his reflexes, sharpened his instincts, yet whispered echoes of Zorath's voice in quiet moments. Foolish human, it seemed to mock, or perhaps that was his own regret playing tricks. He set course for Epsilon Station, a neutral hub on the galaxy's fringe where Federation operatives mingled with smugglers and exiles, a place to lay low, gather intel, and decide his next move. The station loomed into view like a jagged crown of metal and lights, orbiting a gas giant swirled in angry reds. Docking was routine, but as Jax stepped into the bustling concourse, the drama of his situation hit a new heads turned, whispers followed. "That's the guy, the one who broke the damned queen," a burly traitor muttered to his companion, loud enough to carry. Jax ignored it, his broad shoulders cutting through the crowd, but inside, the awkward weight of notoriety pressed down. He wasn't used to being a legend, he was a pilot, not a poster boy for interstellar intrigue. Checking into a dingy hab unit, anonymous credits buying him a room with a flickering holoscreen and a bed that sagged like defeat, Jax tried to unwind. He stripped off his flight suit, the fabric still carrying faint traces of Zerathian incense, and stepped into the sonic shower, letting the vibrations scrub away the grime. But midway through, the door chime buzzed insistently. "Not now," he grumbled, wrapping a towel around his waist as he padded over. Peering through the viewer, he saw a Federation liaison, a sharp-eyed woman named Kira, with cropped hair and a uniform that screamed bureaucracy. She'd debriefed him remotely en route. What more could she want? Opening the door a crack, Jax leaned against the frame, water dripping from his dark hair. "Kira. Bad timing, I'm half-dressed and fully annoyed." She arched an eyebrow, her gaze flicking down briefly before snapping back up, a flush creeping across her cheeks. "Captain Harlan, this couldn't wait. We have new intel on Zerathian movements." The awkwardness hung thick. Here he was, towel-clad and vulnerable, discussing galactic politics. He sighed, stepping aside. "Fine, but if you laugh at my decor, I'm kicking you out." The room's sole chair creaked under her as she sat, pulling up a datapad, while Jax rummaged for pants, muttering about uninvited strategy sessions in underwear. As she briefed him, Zerathian fleets regrouping near the core, whispers of a counterplot to reclaim the curse fragments. The humor in the situation bubbled up despite the drama. Kira stumbled over her words when Jax bent to grab a shirt, his towel slipping precariously low. "Eyes up here, liaison," he teased, yanking it secure with a grin. She coughed, covering with a professional nod. "As I was saying, our analysts think Zorath herself is leading the charge. She's changed since the bond severance." Jax's smile faded, the name twisting like a knife. "Changed how?" The curse's echo stirred, flashing unbidden images. Zorath on her throne, weakened but fierce, her violet eyes haunted by genuine loss. Was it real, or another layer of manipulation? The debrief stretched into hours, Kira's didopad projecting holograms of fleet formations that danced like ghosts in the dim light. Jax paced, his mind racing, drama heightening with each revelation. Zerathia wasn't just licking wounds, they were allying with fringe elements, rogue AI collectives that could tip the balance. "This is bigger than us," Kira said, her voice grave. "If she retrieves those fragments, she could weaponize the curse galaxy-wide." Jax stopped, leaning over the table, his bare chest inches from her shoulder, an awkward proximity that made her shift uncomfortably. "And me? I'm the walking fragment repository. Great, I'm basically a cosmic hot potato." She snorted despite herself, the humor cracking the tension. "More like a ticking bomb with a sense of humor. Federation wants you off-grid, but you're too valuable to bench." As she packed up, the door chimed again, this time, an unexpected visitor. Jax checked the viewer. Lelyn, the redeemed advisor, cloaked in a hood that did little to hide her ethereal features.
What the?
He opened the door, pulling her inside before station security spotted her. Kira tensed, hand on her sidearm. "Zerathian? Explain, Harlan." Ellen lowered her hood, her braided white hair gleaming, pointed ears twitching nervously. "I come in peace, literally. The Sovereign sent me." Drama exploded in the room, Jax's heart raced, the curse pulsing warnings. "Sent you? After everything?" Ellen nodded, her luminous skin paling. "She seeks parley. The betrayal, it wasn't her alone. The council forced her hand, twisted the ancient rites. She wants to make amends." The awkwardness peaked as the three stood in the cramped space, Jax half-dressed, Kira armed and suspicious, Ellen radiating alien poise amid the human clutter. "Parley? Sounds like a trap," Kira snapped. Jax rubbed his temples, chuckling bitterly. "Yeah, because my life's not dramatic enough. Let's invite the X over for tea while I'm in a towel." Ellen blinked, unfamiliar with the idiom. "Tea? Is that a human ritual for negotiations?" Kira stifled a laugh, the humor diffusing the edge. "Something like that, but seriously, Harlan, this reeks." They hashed it out, Ellen revealing coordinates for a neutral asteroid belt. Meet Zorath alone, no fleets. The curse's remnants confirmed her sincerity through faint echoes, but doubt lingered. "If it's a ploy, we're ready," Jax said, suiting up finally, the fabric snapping into place like resolve. Kira coordinated Federation backup, her efficiency a counter to the chaos. As Ellen departed, slipping into the shadows, Jax caught Kira's eye. "You think I'm crazy for considering this?" She shrugged, a wry smile. "Crazy's your brand. Just don't get cursed again, or worse, heartbroken." The journey to the asteroid belt was tense, the eclipse slicing through space with Federation escorts trailing at a distance. Jax's mind churned with what ifs, drama building like a storm front. What if Zorath's feelings were real? What if the bond could be mended? Landing on the designated rock, a barren chunk pocked with craters, he stepped out in full gear, weapons holstered but ready. Zorath's shuttle touched down opposite, sleek and ethereal, and she emerged alone, her white hair flowing in the low-grav breeze generated by life support fields, her gown a simpler version that still hugged her curves with regal sensuality. They approached each other warily, the asteroid's dust crunching underfoot, the stars witnessing like silent judges. "Jax," she began, her voice echoing in his mind despite the severed bond, a residual thread. "I never wanted this fracture." He stopped short, arms crossed. "Save the speeches. You used me, curse transfer, empire expansion. Ring any bells?" Her violet eyes flashed with pain, but she stepped closer, the proximity awkward in its familiarity. "The council orchestrated it, but I faltered when emotions grew real. The curse twisted us both." A gust from the fields billowed her gown, revealing more than intended, and Jax averted his eyes, heat rising despite everything. "Timing's impeccable," he muttered. "Wardrobe malfunction in a peace talk. Classic." She adjusted hastily, a lavender blush coloring her cheeks, a rare crack in her composure that drew a reluctant chuckle from him. "Not intentional. Humans and their distractions." The humor lightened the air momentarily, but drama surged back as she extended a hand, palm up, the scar pulsing faintly. "Let me show you the truth. Reconnect briefly, see the council's deceit." He hesitated, the offer dangling like a lifeline or noose. Kira's voice crackled in his earpiece. "Don't do it, Harlan." Could be a hack, but curiosity and lingering affection won. He took her hand, the jolt reigniting the bond in a rush of images, council elders plotting, Zorath resisting until coerced, her growing love clashing with duty. The visions overwhelmed, Drama cresting as betrayal's layers peeled away not full innocence, but shared culpability. You could have told me, he growled, pulling back, but the bond lingered, awkward tendrils of emotion tangling anew. And risk everything? I was a fool. A nearby crater rumbled seismic activity. No, Federation sensors pinged Council loyalists ambushing, cloaked ships emerging from the belt. Trap, Kara yelled remotely. Zorath's eyes widened in genuine shock. No, I came alone. Drama exploded into action. Jax grabbed her arm, dragging her toward the eclipse as lasers scarred the ground. They dove inside, the ship lifting off in a hail of fire, Zorath strapped in beside him, an awkward passenger in his domain. Buckle up, Your Majesty. Human driving, hold on to your crown. She gripped the armrests, her pointed ears flattening as he evaded blasts with hairpin turns. Humor slipped in amid the chaos. Your ship handles like a dream, unlike your politics. She shot back, and your trust issues could fill a black hole. Federation escorts engaged the ambushers, explosions lighting the void like fireworks at a botched wedding. Escaping hyperspace to a safe rally point, they debriefed with Kira via Holo, Zorath vouching for her innocence, evidence from the visions corroborating. The awkward triangle thickened, Kira eyeing Zorath suspiciously, Jax caught in the middle. So, we're allies again? Just like that? Kira quipped. Jax grinned. Nothing's ever just like that with curses and queens. But yeah, let's take down the council. Zorath nodded, her hand brushing his accidentally, sparking warmth. Together then. The drama simmered, awkward alliances reforming, humor in the absurdity of it all. As they planned the assault on Zerathia's core, infiltrating the palace to expose the elders, the bond strengthened voluntarily, no longer forced. Stolen moments arose, awkward flirtations in strategy sessions, like when Zorath's gown snagged on a console, Jax helping untangle it with hands that lingered. Careful, or Kira might think we're conspiring, he joked. She smiled. Let her. Jealousy's a human spice. The raid built drama stealth drops into crystalline spires, guards evaded with curse-enhanced shadows. Confronting the council in their chamber, lasers and energy clashed, Jax's shots precise, Zorath's powers overwhelming. An elder sneered, the human pet returns. Jax fired back, literally and figuratively pet. I'm the one who housebroke your curse. Humor amid fury, the elders fell, their plots crumbling. Victory sealed with Zorath abdicating to a reformed rule, offering Jax a choice: stay or go. The drama resolved in a poignant moment on a balcony overlooking Zerathia's jewels like worlds. I release you, she said, but he pulled her close. What if I don't want release? Their kiss reignited everything, awkward pasts forgiven in hopeful futures, yet shadows lingered, the galaxy's peace fragile, new threats on horizons. But with humor, heart and humanity's fire, Jax knew they'd endure. Yet shadows lingered, the galaxy's peace fragile, new threats on horizons. But with humor, heart and humanity's fire, Jax knew they'd endure. As the crystalline spires of Zerathia's capital world gleamed under the dual suns, casting rainbows across the palace grounds, Jax stood on that same balcony where forgiveness had sparked anew, Zorath by his side, her hand resting lightly on his arm. The air was alive with the scent of blooming starlies, their petals unfurling like silent celebrations of the council's downfall. Below, crowds gathered not in fear, but in hope, Zerathians and human delegates mingling, their voices a harmonious buzz that spoke of bridges built from the rubble of betrayal. The abdication ceremony had been swift, Zorath passing the crown to a elected steward, her decision a bold step toward a hybrid governance that blended ancient mysticism with human democracy. It's strange, she murmured, her violet eyes reflecting the sun's glow, to feel the weight lift after so long. Like emerging from a nebula's fog, Jax turned to her, his blue eyes softening as he took in her form, the white hair cascading freely now, without the constraints of royal braids, her pointed ears adorned with simple earrings that caught the light. She wore a gown of soft azure, flowing yet unpretentious, hugging her curves in a way that reminded him of their first encounters, yet carried the ease of someone unburdened. Strange good or strange bad? He asked, his voice laced with that familiar gravel, pulling her closer until their bodies brushed in comfortable familiarity. The bond between them, no longer a chain but a chosen thread, hummed gently, sharing whispers of contentment rather than surges of chaos. She smiled, the expression reaching her eyes this time, free of shadows. Good, undeniably good, though I admit, ruling was all I knew. What comes next terrifies and thrills me. He chuckled. the sound rumbling deep in his chest, a counterpoint to the distant cheers. "Welcome to the human club. We call that retirement planning, or in my case, winging it across the stars." They shared a laugh, the moment light despite the undercurrents of change rippling through the galaxy. The Vexar remnants had sued for peace, their emperor's fall creating a power vacuum that Federation mediators filled with treaties and trade pacts. Zerathia's artifacts, once weapons of isolation, now powered shared technologies, shields that protected colonies, drives that shortened hyperspace jumps. Jax had become an unwitting ambassador, his story inspiring tales across human outposts. The pilot who tamed a curse, won a queen's heart, and proved that humanity's greatest strength lay not in conquest, but in connection. As the suns dipped lower, painting the sky in hues of amber and indigo, they wandered the palace gardens, hand in hand, the paths winding through groves of luminous trees that pulsed like living lanterns. Zorath paused by a fountain, its waters singing a melodic tune from hidden crystals beneath. "Do you regret any of it?" she asked quietly, her fingers tracing the water's surface, creating ripples that mirrored the questions in her mind. Jax leaned against a nearby pillar, watching her with an intensity that made her cheeks flush that familiar lavender. "Regret? Nah. The betrayals stung, the battles nearly broke me, but they led here to you, to this." He stepped forward, cupping her face gently, his thumb brushing her cheek. "Besides, without the awkward towel moments and council chases, what stories would we tell our kids?" Her eyes widened, a spark of surprise lighting them, followed by a soft, genuine laugh that echoed through the garden. "Kids? Bold assumption, Captain. Zerathians don't rush such things." But the bond betrayed her delight, a warm flutter that danced between them, painting visions of a future little ones with his stubborn chin and her ethereal grace, exploring the stars without the weight of curses or crowns. Jax grinned, pulling her into an embrace, their bodies fitting together as if sculpted for this very moment. "Then let's not rush. We've got time, the galaxy's not going anywhere." They lingered there as night fell, stars emerging like old friends, the nebula from their first meeting visible on the horizon, a reminder of how far they'd come. Conversations flowed effortlessly, dreams of uncharted worlds, debates over human cuisine versus Zerathian delicacies. Jax insisted pizza was unbeatable, she countered with crystal-infused nectar that sparked visions. Humor wove through it all, Jax mimicking the council elders' pompous tones, Zorath teasing his human propensity for chaos, strengthening the fabric of their bond. Kira had even sent a message earlier, her holo image flickering with wry amusement. "If you're settling down, Harlan, don't go soft. The Federation needs pilots like you." He'd replied with a laugh, soft. "With this queen by my side? Never." In the days that followed, they charted their own course aboard the Eclipse, upgraded with Zerathian tech that made it a vessel of wonders, shields that bent light, engines that whispered through space. They ventured to fringe worlds, mediating disputes with a blend of his tactical wit and her diplomatic grace, turning potential conflicts into alliances. One such trip took them to a remote colony where humans and aliens coexisted uneasily. Jax's stories of their journey, embellished with humor about curse-induced mishaps, broke the ice, while Zorath's demonstrations of shared power sealed the peace. "See," he whispered to her afterward, as they watched the colonists celebrate. "Humanity, fuck yeah, but with a little alien magic, it's unbeatable." Yet peace wasn't without its tests. Whispers of rogue elements, former council loyalists, or Vexar diehards surfaced occasionally, drawing them into brief skirmishes that tested their synergy. In one, aboard a derelict station haunted by artifact echoes, Jax felt the curse's remnant stir, amplifying his senses to dodge ambushes, while Zorath wove protective veils of energy. They emerged victorious, collapsing in laughter amid the debris. "You and your dramatic entrances," she teased, bandaging a minor scrape on his arm. "Next time let's try diplomacy first." He pulled her close, kissing her forehead. "Where's the fun in that?" As seasons cycled on Zerathia, marked by the blooming of ancient groves, they built a life intertwined yet free. Jax introduced her to Earth's archives, sharing holos of oceans and mountains that stirred her wanderlust. She showed him hidden Zerathian realms, caverns where stars seemed to sing. Their intimacy deepened, no longer shadowed by doubt, nights spent in each other's arms, the bond a gentle current of shared dreams, bodies moving in rhythms honed by trust and passion. One dawn, as they watched a meteor shower from a secluded vista, Zorath turned to him, her voice soft. I love you, Jax, not as a queen, but as me. He held her tighter, the words healing old scars. And I love you, curse, crown, and all. The galaxy moved on, new adventures calling, but their story became legend, the forced alliance that bloomed into enduring love, proving that even in the vast, unforgiving void, hearts could conquer curses, betrayals fade into lessons, and humanity's spirit fierce, adaptable, loving could light the darkest stars. Jax and Zorath sailed into that future together, the eclipse carrying them toward horizons unknown, their laughter echoing eternally among the constellations.